Hi everyone, my name's Tim Medeiros. I'm a systems engineer at Innovise, and I get asked all the time about vertical assets within InfoAsset Planner. InfoAsset Planner is a system that's very good at looking at risk within wet infrastructure, with pipes, manholes, point features, line segments, polygons, and GIS. But we get asked all the time, what about vertical assets? And so hopefully in this short video you'll be able to see the capabilities of vertical assets within InfoAsset Planner. So to give you an idea of what vertical assets mean within InfoAsset Planner, basically the vertical assets are the child asset within the main kind of facilities or assets in here. So your treatment plant would be your core facility type within InfoAsset Planner, and then you could have all of these different child vertical assets in however deep of a hierarchy you want to go within your InfoAsset Planner project. So you could go into all these different bins within your main parent asset, where you could have different scores and things roll up. So to demonstrate this, let's go ahead and jump into the software here. And here I'm looking at, I've got a network here. If we zoom out all the way into layer, if we zoom out all the way here, you can see I'm looking at my gravity mains, and this is a lot of times the main network we might look at within InfoAsset Planner. But what's nice about the vertical asset component within InfoAsset Planner is you can take your vertical assets and your linear assets, have risk analyses done for both, and actually put them into the same databases, which is really unique, right? A lot of times those are in separate databases, but now with expanded functionality, vertical assets within InfoAsset Planner, it really is possible to put those in the same database and have those interconnected. All right, so let's go and look at some vertical assets here. So if I go to my bookmark here, lift station vertical assets, and I select this lift station, which is just a node point feature class. Now you can see in the Facility Explorer I've got my lift station, but then underneath it here are my vertical assets. So within the lift station I have 2 pumps in here. Each of those pumps has a motor, some ventilation, a fan, keep it cool, and then gears maybe within the motor. This is a very simple example. This could go down however deep you want it to go. We could add electrical systems in here, control systems, as far down and as many different kind of items and as great a detail as we want to go. But this is a good example here. I'll keep it simple. And all of these vertical assets can have their own attribute tables that's being stored within the InfoAsset Planner database. And remember, the InfoAsset Planner database is right here inside of Esri. It's a file geodatabase or an enterprise SDE InfoAsset Planner geodatabase. So these vertical assets can actually be stored as tables, as attribute tables, actually within your database here. And so again, what does this look like? So all of the vertical assets here can have their own different fields. You can see custom fields for the fan ventilation versus the pumps versus the gears. They can have different, versus the motors, they can have different fields in here custom to those, and they're referencing different attribute tables on the back end in the InfoAsset Planner database. But the actual geometry for these features does not exist, right? They are all tied to the lift station. The lift station contains the geolocation basically for these different assets, and these different assets are just tied to that lift station there, all right? Through this kind of parent-child relationship. Okay, so then what can we do with these vertical assets once we have them within our InfoAsset Planner database? And the answer is a lot of the same things you can do with any of the other different facility types and assets within an InfoAsset Planner database. So if we come down here to maybe even the gear here, you can see for this gear I've got consequence of failure parameters, likelihood of failures, risk analyses can be done on each individual vertical asset class, if you will, rehab decision trees, right? And cost can be associated based on those rehab decision trees. And then as well, work orders, right? So if we come to the end of our rehab decision tree and we say, you know, this gear needs to be recalled and replaced, this pump is very old, it's worn out now, or we need to trim the impeller here or something like that, you know, we can have that suggested rehab assigned and even generate a work order that's stored within the InfoAsset Planner database from that rehab decision tree. Okay? And then some other neat things we can do here is we can roll up these scores to the overall parent asset, right? So this lift station is dependent on the condition scores within the vertical assets within it, right? So if we look at the lift station risk analysis, if we look down here at the bottom, we can see the likelihood of failure parameters for this lift station are based on the max scores from the vertical asset likelihood of failures, or the average scores from the likelihoods of failures within this lift station. So these kind of roll up to the overall lift station risk analysis, to the overall lift station rehab decision tree plan, and things like that. So what's an example of that? So we can see here the max vertical asset likelihood of failure grade that this lift station is getting. It's getting a score of 8 here. Again, that's contributing to its total likelihood of failure score. Where does that 8 come from? Well, if we come and we start clicking on our vertical assets, we can see, well, it didn't come, that score of 8 didn't come from the pump. It's only got a score of 6. We go to motors, it's got a score of 4. Gears, score of 2. Other gears, score of 4. It came from this fan vent system. So someone did an inspection or something on the fan ventilation, decided that condition grade was a score of 4. That gives it a likelihood of failure score of 8 in this example here. And this is the score that rolled up to the overall lift station. All right, so that's an example of just how the vertical assets can really roll up and affect those parent assets, and a lot of utilities and organizations really want to see that be taken into account. So there are a lot of ways of doing that within InfoAsset Planner. And then the other thing it's important to show is, again, these vertical assets have a lot of the same tools and functionality that you have within other facility types within InfoAsset Planner. So if I come down to, again, that gear example here, here's its consequence of failure, likelihood of failure, risk analysis, and if I want to create new scenarios here for risk, a lot of the same tools and wizards that are available here for vertical assets as there are for the gravity mains, pressurized mains, manholes, kind of the main wet infrastructure network assets we tend to see within InfoAsset Planner. Same thing, even decision trees can be brought in to vertical assets as well. All right. And those, again, can produce results and can be tied back to work orders like we were showing as well. And again, how do you do all this? How do you import this information? Again, everything within InfoAsset Planner is very GIS centric. Everything is within the Esri environment. You saw the tables that were being referenced there. And so if you want to see how the vertical assets are linked to those tables on the back end, it's through this facility and asset type manager. So the asset type is where the vertical assets are. So here's my different vertical asset types. You can see I've got some of these linked to different tables, and some of these vertical assets all linked to the same generic asset table. So you can do that in different ways there. All right. I think that's a good basic overview of the vertical asset kind of capabilities within InfoAsset Planner. If you have further questions, you can always email support@innovise.com or contact your local client service manager. Have a good one. Bye.